Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Temporal Graph Reading Group today. We are very glad to have um, Liang and MengLiu here to present their recent work at iClear 2024 for deep temporal graph clustering. And for a little bit of speaker introduction, um, MengLiu is a PhD candidate at National University of Defense Technology. His research interests include temporal graph learning, deep clustering, and knowledge graph. He has published 7 papers as first author, including iClear, um, SIGIR, ACMMM, and CIKM, which have received 200 plus citations. He received awards such as the Best Student Paper of CCHI in 2023 and China National Scholarships twice, and as well as the excellent master thesis, so on. He also served as reviewers for major journals and conferences such as TKD, Murex ICML, and so on. And Kalyan is our second speaker today. He is currently pursuing a PhD, also at the National University of Defense Technology. And before that, he got his bachelor degree from Beihang University and the master degree from Penn State University. His research interests include graph learning and knowledge graphs, and he has also published papers and served as reviewers in top-level journal conferences, including TKD, TNN, LS, ICML, AAAI, and so on. And and also he has hosted GitHub repo on GitHub with more than 900 stars. So I'll pass the mic to you, let's start the presentation.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to my presentation. I'm MengLiu, a PhD student, and my research interests are temporal graph learning and clustering. Today, Liang and I will introduce our work, Deep Temporal Graph Clustering, which is published on iClear. First, let's start with the hypothetical scenario. As shown in the left figure, suppose a Professor A and his PhD student B jointly win an academic award in 2023. After learning the news, the professor told his student as early as 2012, "We will win the award in the future." This scenario may appear in movies, but is impossible in the real world. This is because message propagation in the real world follows a basic principle. That is, the past cannot predict the future. However, the classical message propagation mechanism of GN may cause this problem. As shown in the right figure, a message is passed from the blue node to the yellow node, so the age in 2023, and then to the red node, so the age in 2012. This wrong temporal order means possible knowledge leakage in genes. So in this case, time information is particularly important. This leads to the concept of dynamic graph, which is compared to static graph. Among them, temporal graph is an important branch of dynamic graph. It's also known as continuous time dynamic graph. Since everyone present here is an expert in temporal graph learning, we will refrain from providing an extensive introduction to the fundamentals. There is only one thing we would like to point out. Both static graph model and the discrete dynamic graph model are designed based on adjacency matrix. This is obviously different from the temporal graph model. Therefore, we will focus on discussing the difference between static graph and temporal graph. We will classify discrete dynamic graph as static graph. Compared with static graph based on adjacency matrix, temporal graph adopt interaction sequence, also known as in adjacency list and batch processing patterns, which are more flexible and more detailed. As shown in the right figure, in adjacency matrix, when the number of nodes doubles, the size of matrix quadruples. In this case, as the number of nodes increases, there will be a zero that makes the existing computer memory unable to support the large-scale computations based on adjacency matrix. That is, out-of-memory problem. Furthermore, as shown in the figure below, we also want to point out several problems with adjacency matrix. In figure A, node 1 and node 3 have 3 interactions, but there is only one edge in the adjacency matrix. This means that there is a loss of interaction information in the process from the interaction sequence to the adjacency matrix. And in figure B, as mentioned above, temporal graph learning utilizes the batch processing pattern to solve the large-scale out-of-memory problem. In temporal graph learning, this data can be split into multiple batches for training. And in figure C, it is what we want to discuss. That is, there should be a strict time sequence in graph learning to avoid information leakage. Displaced temporal graph clustering changes from the adjacency matrix to the interaction sequence form, which brings a richer data storage structure and a more convenient batch training pattern. But it also brings new challenges. In fact, temporal graph clustering is limited by two challenges. The first one is inapplicable of clustering technologies. Without the data from of adjacency matrix, many classical static graph clustering technologies are no longer applicable. After breaking away from the adjacency matrix, it becomes more difficult to obtain high-order structure information. So we attempt to improve the classical clustering technology to fit the batch processing pattern of temporal graph learning, and only a small number of improvements have been made. The main purpose of the proposed method TGC lies in discussing the advantages of temporal graph clustering through experiments. Specifically, the two main types of technologies improved are node-level distribution and batch-level reconstruction. For the node-level distribution, we introduce the embedding pre-training to generate a period distribution P. In the training process, we encourage the training distribution to be close to the period distribution. This is a classical technology in clustering, that is, student T distribution. For another classical technology, adjacency matrix reconstruction, since batch processing cannot obtain the entire adjacency matrix, we select to reconstruct the potential adjacency relationships in each batch to achieve simple adjacency reconstruction. Finally, we load these modules onto the exciting temporal graph method. Here we select HTNE and train them together with the temporal loss function. The method we propose is simple, as our main concern is to construct a usable model to discuss experimental results on temporal graph clustering. Then, before discussing the experimental results, we first talk about data size. We argue that the core complexity of the static graph method is n squared, and the complexity of the temporal method is E. In most cases, n squared is larger than E because n squared means that there is almost a fully connected graph. That is, every node is connected to every other node. In a few cases, n squared will be smaller than E. It means the edge information is lost or optimized. As shown in Table 1, the school dataset. The school dataset has 180,000 interactions, but only 6,000 edges remain after being compressed into an adjacency matrix. In this process, most of the interaction information is lost, which will have an adverse impact on the model. Before discussing the performance, we would like to further introduce the challenge of the dataset, which is the second challenge faced by temporal graph clustering. We summarized the publicly available temporal graph datasets and divided them into three categories. The first category is called unlabeled datasets, such as college message, Wikipedia, MOOC, et al. These datasets have no node labels. The second category requires focused discussion, which we call clustering unavailable datasets. That is, although these datasets have no labels, they are not suitable for clustering tasks. Taking the Amazon dataset as an example, the node labels it contains a rating of products. But when we cluster nodes, we will divide these nodes into different categories such as toys, books, et al. Therefore, we argue that the labels of this dataset may be able to perform node classification, but not suitable for node clustering. In this case, there are few temporal graph datasets that are suitable for node clustering. So we further extract multiple archive datasets based on the OGB dataset for large-scale temporal graph clustering. As shown in the figure, these archive datasets belong to different research fields, and their scale are larger than many common datasets. Then, as shown in Table 2, we report the clustering results on several common datasets. Note that in school datasets,
May I ask a question? Sorry to interrupt. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just on the dataset side, and let me know if you prefer the question at the end of the talk. That works as well. I just want to check for the classes you have for the archive datasets. What are the classes? What are the labels?
What are the labels for the archive datasets?
Yeah. Or the classes, like what are the categories? Like you have AI, right? And then these are subject areas.
Yeah. So based on the archive datasets, we have five, right? The first one is archive AI. The second one is archive CS, and the third one is archive math, and the fourth one is archive physics, and the last one is archive large. And we actually choose the top five relevant domain to AI from the 14 original domains, and use them as the basic one to extract the corresponding nodes, which actually, if you check our paper in the page 6, the description of the dataset, we actually mention it. And we also open source our datasets on the GitHub link. Maybe more details you can refer to that link for more.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. So we will continue.
In Table 2, we report the clustering results on several common datasets. Note that in school datasets, many temporal graph learning methods perform better than deep clustering methods, and many classical methods such as deep work, node-to-vector, which focus on interaction list, also performs better than the deep graph clustering method. So it proves that we point out above that some important information may be lost after interaction sequences are compressed into adjacency matrix. Of course, such as July and Tian may get not so good performance, and we think it is because the model design of them. So in the future, we will further discuss and research study it, their model design. In table 3, on large data sets, many deep graph clustering methods will meet out of memory problem. No matter how effective the temporal graph methods are, they can at least complete the training. And such as the MVGL, AG, this method meet out of memory problem, so it can get a result. Furthermore, we compare the GPU memory used on different data types, as shown in the left figure. We can find that with the data size scale increase, deep graph methods such as MVGL, SDCN, and DFCN, they meet the out-of-memory problem, and temporal graph methods such as TGC, Trend et al., they have a lot of space to grow. This is due to the batch processing pattern of temporal graph learning. And as shown in the right figure, as the batch size increases, the training time decreases and the memory requirement increases. It means that the temporal graph learning can effectively find a balance between space requirements and time requirements by adjusting the batch size. In summary, we want to point out that temporal graph clustering provides new possibilities rather than replace deep graph clustering. In some specific scenarios, such as in large-scale dynamic graph datatypes, temporal graph clustering may be more advantageous. Furthermore, the two most important challenges are in applicable clustering technologies and mismatched data size. At present, there is relatively little research on temporal graph clustering, which is a relatively new direction. The most distinctive thing is that in the training process, temporal graph clustering can find a balance between time and space requirements. Finally, dynamic real-world data is the foundation of temporal graph clustering, such as smart city, brain activity, star evolution, et al. This awaits our further exploration. Here are some possibilities related to our research work. Welcome to pay attention. We disclose the designed TGC algorithm and the data set suitable for temporal graph clustering. In addition, there is a GitHub for knowledge graph reasoning. This concludes my report. Thank you all. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me with this email address.
Yes, thank you very much for the nice talk, and it's also very clear. Yeah, so you have any questions from the audience, feel free to post in the chat or just unmute yourself to ask. Thanks again for presenting at the very late hour. I know that the time zone is it's quite different between here and in China, right?
Okay. Feel free to maybe to ask a question, and we also enjoying the discussion with you guys.
Yes, sounds good. I do have some questions. Is there any question from the the audience first? You can ask, or you can type in the chat. So for your method, I assume it is supervised, right? So you have like labels from the data set to train the clusters. And then for test time, you are predicting the labels. So it's like a no classification task training for the temporal graph models, right?
Actually, I think we are unsupervised. The label is the label here. Maybe you can see the class here is only a way to evaluate how well
Oh, okay.
over clustering module it is. That's a very common metrics in clustering. But actually in the real world scenario, actually you don't have label, right? You don't have
Yeah.
label, so you cannot use that accuracy to evaluate a model. But in our experiments, more experimental setting for paper for academic research, you have to have a more concrete or more this kind of supervised things to evaluate your model. So we have
Right.
this accuracy. To get this accuracy, we need this this label, but actually the whole procedure is unsupervised because it's a clustering. Clustering is a
Right.
typical unsupervised task, right? Yeah,
Yes, yes. I just
yeah.
want to like double check since you talk about the labels parts, just want to make sure on the same page. And for
Okay.
the temporal graph learning methods like TGN, how do you train it to do clustering?
Which one?
Like TGN or Jody, how do you train them to do clustering? Like how do you do unsupervised training on them for clustering?
We use Judy or TGN in training. That is, we feed all data sets into the model and get the whole embeddings, node embeddings. Then we feed this node embeddings to k-means for
Okay.
clustering evaluation.
I see. Okay, so you train it with link prediction, right? So you use link prediction as pre-training, and then you generate node embeddings, and then you feed it to k-means to do clustering.
Yeah, the loss function is for link prediction. We have not improved it.
Oh, I see, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
actually,
I thought you were using the label to train the TGN, for example. So that's why I asked.
no. Actually, we only we follow the Judy and the TGN this kind of model, and just follow it as the temporal graph representation learning model. And based on this link prediction task, and this task is actually to learn the structure embedding
Right,
underlying the whole graph. But the structure embedding actually you don't need any labels for the age because you just learn whether they exist or not. But what we
right,
do is use this kind of representation to do clustering and how to evaluate this clustering. The label is there. Yeah, so that's a kind of that's the whole procedure. Maybe you can make
right.
it more clear. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And there's a question from the audience from Nelson. He says, congratulations on the work and the presentation. And the question is, could you please confirm how the data sets are split in the train, validation, and test for evaluation? And how does this choice like influence the result? And he didn't find the details from the paper or the code, so you want to check.
Uh, for the clustering tasks, we use the whole data set for train and then generate the node embeddings for test. Actually, there is no data uh, for the another validate. So we will further study it to split the data set in training and validate. But in recent clustering methods, the whole data set is used for training and the whole data set is used for test.
Okay.
Then for the code and the data, we have opened it on the GitHub, and in our paper we give the link in the abstract.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
maybe let me make it more clear. So So it's kind of that we use the whole data set for training and for test that follows actually for the setting, in many static graph clustering task. So we follow that setting because actually the clustering is an unsupervised task. So what we do is we propose this problem. We propose or we design this setting that's a clustering task in temporal graph, and we design some experimental environment such as data set, and we design some loss function and to maybe can tell or can make a discussion with the readers and other researchers that maybe what we propose is a potential way to conduct this clustering on temporal graph because we didn't find any clustering task and clustering analysis on temporal graph. But we think actually the clustering is a very important task because machine learning, supervised and unsupervised, how couldn't there be unsupervised analysis on this kind of temporal graph? So we raised this problem, we raised this scenario, and that's actually the main contribution of our paper. And based on that, we propose a potential solution on this task. Maybe there actually, because as the first one, it is definitely not that perfect on this temporal graph clustering. So there are many gaps maybe other researchers and readers can fill in. So that's also a potential future works we can do. Also, you can do. Yeah, thanks.
Yes, that makes sense. So from my understanding, you are basically doing a transductive setting, right? So during training, all the nodes from the graph you can see. So you basically train with all the timestamps, right? Because usually in temporal graph, we split in chronological order. So you put like some part of the timestamps as training and then the rest as validation and test. So here you would actually just predict the labels for all the nodes at the end of the timestamp, if I understand correctly.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. So there might be interesting to think about potentially this problem can be like can be some sort of like other evaluation setting and maybe split like chronologically. So you have some clustering results at different points in time and see how that changes over time. Potentially that could be interesting too. But
and maybe I have one follow-up discussion that if you split the data set from the maybe the first period, the 0 time to the T1, okay, that's the first period, and maybe you can do some clustering on this field and use this feature and this trained weight and this model, and once in the future you don't train all the sample, you just use the weight, you train the weight in before, and you trace the newly added node as a new sample, and you do this something like parameter editing things on your model, and then maybe a more temporal-like model can be designed. I'm not sure whether you can understand my my meaning. Yeah.
Yes,
So
I
that's
think you are talking about like inductive setting, right? Where you have new nodes arrive later.
Yeah. So that's inductive setting. Maybe is more like temporal based, but I think before that, this paper should be there because you have to set up all the data set and raise this problem. And then we also have been trying that inductive settings by ourselves, and we maybe want to publish some paper as a extensions journal paper based on this topic or other paper. But we are also open to have more discussion and maybe cooperate if you want. We can have email, or maybe in China, WeChat is a better way. So, but we can have cooperation if you have new ideas or if you want. Okay.
Mhm. Sounds good. This is definitely a very important problem. And yeah, so thanks for the nice work again. And I think there's a lot of like follow-up work can be done from this, as you mentioned.
Okay,
And
thank you.
yeah, so if there is no more question from the audience, we can wrap up the talk for today. We will upload the recording to to YouTube at a later time as well. And yeah, so let's thank the speakers for the nice talk again. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your chance. Thanks.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.